Okay, good evening, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon if you're joining us from further afield. We're going to kick off in just about 1 minute's time, just to allow other people to check in. In the meantime, do please let us know who you are and where you're tuning in from. You can leave a chat, you can leave a message in the chat box under the video, both on the Travel Massive event page and on YouTube and Facebook. So please do say hi. We've got Travel Massive Bangkok tuning in. Okay, hi Rick from Bangkok. Hope he's not the only one watching. Okay, guys, we're gonna kick off now. So I'm just gonna bring in our guests. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Welcome to Travel Massive Yangon's first ever online event, Coping with COVID, Resilience and Innovation in Myanmar. My name is Bertie. I'm the leader at Travel Massive Yangon and managing director of Sampan Travel. I'll be your host for the next 90 minutes, no longer. And with me, I have four titans from the tourism profession in Myanmar who are going to be sharing their perspectives on how the Myanmar industry will come out of this crisis and what they've been doing for the past few months up to this point. So just a quick introduction to our speakers. We have Dormay Miat Mom Win, General Manager from Chachim Hotel, and since 2016, the Chairperson of Myanmar Tourism Marketing Association. Hi, May. We have Mark. Mark is the founder of Sabah Street Food Tours. We have Tanda from Kiri Travel, and we have Dr. Andrea Valentin, founder of Tourism Transparency and NGO here in Yangon. Thanks to all my speakers for joining us today. I'm going to be putting questions to them for the first part of this session, but I want to leave as much time as possible to field questions from the floor, from the audience. So please, throughout this event, please do put your questions into the chat box, and we will try and address as many of those as possible. So the context of what we're talking about today. In many ways, Myanmar hasn't been hit as bad by COVID as other countries. In terms of confirmed cases and deaths, Myanmar's numbers are quite low. And in spite of the fact that we're seeing green shoots of recovery already, it's hard to, you can't really overestimate the severity that this crisis has already had on the tourism industry in Myanmar, as it has on the tourism industry throughout the world. People's livelihoods have been upturned, and they'll continue to be upturned in the months to come. I believe there are 400,000 tourist arrivals in Myanmar in January this year. That went down to 100 in April. I know that MOHG and LuxDev put out a survey several weeks ago, and it reported that 80% of respondents were going to be extremely affected by this crisis, and 90% had a severe hit to their revenue. I'm sure that's probably more like 100% now. Nonetheless, there are people and organizations within the industry who are facing it with optimism, with positivity. They're building resilience into their organizations, and they are creating initiatives which are going to outlive this pandemic. And that's what we want to speak about a little bit today. So we're going to first talk to May. So I'm going to bring May in here. I'll keep her in. May has been working in tourism industry in Myanmar since 1994. When she was a secretary at Summit Park View Hotel. She has worked up the ranks to become the first Myanmar general manager of Chachim Hotel in Yangon, and the first female Myanmar general manager of any 4- or 5-star hotel in Myanmar. She's also the chair of the Myanmar Tourism Marketing Association. So essentially she is the marketer-in-chief for Myanmar as a tourism destination. May, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Buddy.
First, in the month of May, MTM put on a series of panels whereby you invited professionals from the Myanmar tourism industry to speak about COVID's effect within Myanmar and about how the industry was responding. And it took off hugely, I think, because hundreds were tuning in to watch it being streamed live on Facebook, hundreds more watching the replays afterwards. And within that audience was representatives from the Ministry of Hotel and Tourism. And by the 10th and final panel of this series, you actually got representatives from the ministry onto the panel to, I think, for 3 hours or more, to field questions from the, well, they're 3.5 hours, to field questions from the audience and speak directly with the private sector. And I think in many ways, for us who've been used to a slightly cautious approach when it comes to communications from some of the ministries, this seems to show a shift. And so I'd like to start with you telling us a little bit about how those panels came about, how you got the ministry engaged. And before you do that, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a quick update on the situation of tourism within Myanmar for those who aren't in the country and maybe aren't aware of the latest news. So please, over to you, May.
Thank you very much, buddy. Wow, you put everything in one question. Very smart. Okay, I do my best to cover all of your questions. First of all, you have briefly mentioned about the arrivals to Myanmar. So let me just share some numbers that in last year, 2019, we achieved 4.36 million foreign visitors arrival into the country, which was 23% growth from 2018, which was looking, very encouraging, right? And until January, you just mentioned as well, until January, we saw like 14% growth from last year, January, the same month. But unfortunately, from February until now, like we are on the same boat with every other destinations in the world. So again, like COVID, we've been talking a lot about COVID everywhere. But right now, I think it depends how countries are kind of performing, means how countries are trying to contain the virus. Just you mentioned that I think we have to give credit to Ministry of Health and Sports in our country for doing doing very good job. So far, we have 293 cases in the country from the day one until now. And out of which we have 208 recovered, which is 70% recovered. And there are like a few weeks already, like we did not hear like local transmission right now. So I think we all have to stay like strong and disciplined from now on, because I think in the future it's destinations it's how safe you are. I think that's going to be very one of the critical factors for that. So of course, we were talking a lot about COVID, a lot about virus. So like MTM, like including you, you are one of us anyway. So thank you so much. So we put our heads together and we thought of like, what can we do? I mean, the industry in the beginning, like in April, sometime in April, like that, we are sort of like quite devastated, isn't it? But we have to be resilient and we have to be optimistic and we have to look forward to future. Life goes on, so we have to recover, and for that we have to work together. So one good thing about MTM, like Myanmar Tourism Marketing, it's very it's an organization, we are like non-government, non-profit, private organization. The members are like key players and key tourism leaders, I mean, in Myanmar. So we are very grateful for that. And all of our members and our partners together, we put our heads together, and then we set up this panel session just now you were mentioned. So we did this panel title of like COVID wave and Myanmar tourism industry. Altogether, there were 10 online panel sessions. So the first 8 sessions were like all our private sectors. So all the private sectors, like tourism leaders and hotels, the business leaders were sharing their insights and their perspectives and their hopes and expectations for future as well. How they are surviving. Basically, this is like we all are survive at the survival stage. So how they are surviving and how their businesses can be resilient. So the business sector was discussing and like sharing their thoughts and ideas for first 8 sessions. And the eight, and number 9 was all INGO, our development partners together. And they were also giving us advice from their different perspective for longer terms and what should be done and what are the concerns for future. And the 10th was just, you were mentioning, it was basically, think about it, I'm quite grateful that we managed to invite the majors, basically those all 4 speakers from the government officials are, they are kind of titans, to sit together with us and share what government is doing and planning. I think that's very important. So in terms of crisis,
sorry, mate, did you approach them, or did they approach you and say they want to come on to the panel?
We did. Actually, we did. I mean, let me explain that right now, like, we are in the crisis together. The government, public, private, everyone, we are in the together. So we have to overcome this together. This is the title of our CERP, the COVID Economic Relief Plan. Overcoming together is the key word. So the private and public sector must work together. And in fact, since past few years, like, we were working together, like government sector and private sector, like, developing our tourism branding of Myanmar Be Enchanted, remember? So those branding campaigns, like especially for marketing, we were working together closer than before, I would say. But in this crisis, like the government, we sort of like understand that the government is also working something, but then the private sector needs to know, there should be like a closer communication, that the private sector need to know what is going on, so that we all have the hope and we can see the light, we can seek and we can see the light for future.
Is that how the communication will continue, do you think? Do you think there's sort of openness on the part of the ministry, something that will continue?
So in the past also there were like discussions, but not live to public. It could be on a seminars or meetings or pre-recorded, but this is live, and then we are broadcasting live on Facebook. So there were like audience public. So from private sector, we appreciate. And if you see this section, they were like discussing very openly, and they were sharing the roadmap, what can do and what cannot be done. I mean, of course, there are things that cannot be done. Not now, cannot be done. So they were like, all the government officials were sharing very openly and also very sincerely that these are to be done and these are to be considered for when. So I think this is pretty productive, and it's very good coordinated effort between private sector and public sector. So we talk a lot about like CERP, and also we talk a lot about soft loans, how government can help private sector to survive. So I think this is we appreciate, basically we are grateful, and then this is very good. And also we can see that recently also the government ministries are doing the press conferences. So they were discussing quite openly, which is very good sign.
Yeah, and I went on the Facebook page a few days after that event, and it had been viewed 6,000 times, over 6,000 times, that video.
Wow.
We're on about 19 views right now, so I'm not sure we're going to reach your heights, but it's amazing how many people have watched that video. Thank you, mate. I'm going to bring you back in later to talk about the roadmap and the strategy.
Okay.
Thanks, mate. We're going to just quickly go to Mark. Mark Short is founder of Sabah Street Food Tours here in Yangon. Mark and his guides take travelers to their favorite eateries and food stalls in downtown Yangon, walking tours, trishaw tours, breakfast evening, cookery classes, market visits, and I believe you've now branched out to do stuff into the Delta and what you call a jungle cooking in C4. But Mark, since lockdown, you have been essentially linking up your partners, your food vendors, who obviously had no revenue due to lockdown, with some of the poorest and the hungriest communities of Yangon. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came up with that initiative and how it's worked in practice?
Sure. Hi, Bertie, and hi, everyone at Travel Massive. So, yeah, just to give you a bit of background on the kind of food donation project that we set up. So, obviously, Yangon went into lockdown. I live in Yangon. I live in downtown. Most vendors, street cooks, were kicked off from their spots, not allowed to sell. Many markets as well were closed down and still are closed down now. For those markets that got shut down, many of those vendors got shuffled off to other markets. So then it's very crowded there. These markets, most of them stayed open during lockdown because the people in downtown needed places to buy their meat and fresh fruits, etc., and vegetables. And as I was out and about and visiting some of these places, I could see that people were really struggling. Vendors, I got in touch with some of them, and they were struggling. Some of these guys do have some savings, but not a lot to last for a long time. So I was just picking my brains about how Sabah we could help them, because we've built such a good relationship with them over the good times, visiting with our customers, to the food vendors and to the markets, but also we do some catering as well with the street food vendors. So the street food vendors will come with us, and we'll cook for people at embassies and NGOs, etc. So I didn't want to just bail on them when the bad stuff hits the fan. So yeah, because of our relationship with the vendors, and then also seeing people struggling, but also having a network of people who want to help, who've maybe been on our tours, seen what we do. And because of this, I put a call out for donations. If anyone wants to donate, we were beginning with starting around $45, which is about 60,000 kyat, which could buy 100 portions of a 600 kyat dish for 100 people. So I got in touch with vendors after receiving donations from people, and asked the vendors, okay, can you cook 100 portions for Tuesday? I'll pay you. And together with our Saikar Trishaw people, we collect 100 portions, and then with a team of volunteers, we go around downtown and give it to homeless people, people who are struggling, unemployed at the moment. There's families with small kids, babies, pregnant women, people sleeping under bridges, people in hidden away communities where there's maybe 50 people. Just very, very basic accommodation and struggling for food. So yeah, that's what we've been doing. We've been doing it 3 times a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. The food is too easy to give away. It goes away almost too quickly because there's enough people. And we've also started in Laydan now, and we do that once a week. So it's all just everyone's volunteering and just trying to do something positive in these weird, chaotic times.
Yeah, it's amazing. And were you expecting to have enough donations to be doing this 3 times a week, this many weeks on when you began?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I was kind of, when I posted about this, I was thinking it's going to be some kind of cake stall situation. We'd get maybe $100 and we'll be able to do what we can. But in the first day, someone donated $500, which was amazing. And also really, it was a lot to kind of take in as well, to see that there's people who really appreciate this side of Yangon, and they really want to help. And it's just beautiful to see that Yangon means, and the people mean so much to them, that they want to help.
I know that you had a good relationship with your partners anyway, because you've worked with them for a long time. But do you find that relationship has developed going through this with them together?
Yeah, I think so. Because like we've always celebrated these people, and tried to show people how great their food is and how resilient the vendors and traders are in downtown. And like I said before, I definitely didn't want to bail on them in this environment. And when they've seen the team of volunteers, people that they haven't ever seen before, all coming along to try and help, I think it's been quite touching all round to see all these different groups working together and just trying to do something positive together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I joined Mark on one of his donation runs last week, and it was really lovely to be part of it and to see what you're doing close up. So I would urge all listeners to get in touch with Mark and Sabah if they want to donate or to volunteer on one of his runs. Thanks, Mark. We're going to come back to you in a little bit later. I'm going to bring in Tanda from Kiwi Travel shortly. Just before I do, please do keep the comments and questions coming in. There'll be plenty of time at the end for Q&A, so do type your questions either into Travel Massive or on Facebook or YouTube. Hi, Tanda.
Hello, Bati.
Hi, thanks for joining us. So Tanda works with Kiwi Travel. Kiwi, for those who don't know, is one of the biggest destination management companies across Southeast Asia. In Myanmar, they are renowned for their commitment to responsible travel and their really innovative products and itineraries. I mentioned the survey before, which was done in the Myanmar tourism industry, and about 60% of respondents said they would have to reduce their workforce either by redundancies or furloughs due to the crisis. Kiwi Travel decided not to do that, and instead they chose to keep their staff and use the assets they have to create 2 brand new social enterprises during lockdown, which I think is an amazing feat because you've done it. You've created these 2 companies and they're doing pretty well. So Tanda, can you please just tell us, firstly, why the management at Kiwi decided to do this? And secondly, how it's been. How's it going with the two new enterprises?
Okay. So first of all, let me introduce my 2 projects. One team is working on a free platform, and the other team is working on creating sustainable arts, crafts, packaging material, and souvenirs. In the first week of March, when the clients started telling us they wanted to postpone their trip, like Kiwi Travel were discussing what we are going to do in the coming months if the COVID-19 crisis raises. Then at the end of the March, we decided to set up this social business in the coming months, since tourism also was standstill. For the 2 projects for the free platform and social media, Kiwi named Gourmet Volunteer Connections after we are going to help in Burmese that brings young volunteers in contact with local organizations that are looking for volunteers. And as you know, volunteers are really extremely important in Myanmar. Many great projects and some NGOs can't afford to hire full-time staff or pay for the expertise they need. So at the same time, many young Burmese are also looking for to gain more work experience and develop their skills further during this COVID-19 situation. So we match the volunteers' interests and organizations' needs. This is for volunteer side. And for the team, like Souvenirs team site, Kiwi named it Honeybee Arts and Crafts. They are getting more suppliers of handicrafts to work with us and create some own designs like wine bag, t-shirt with Chicken Myanmar slang, face masks, and with face mask with company logo. It is really popular among the restaurant and hotels right now. Yeah.
They're really nice. I've seen those face masks. I think Sabar actually used your face mask already, and on my to-do list is order sampan face masks. So I'll be in touch with some of those. They're amazing. I mean, you've got websites, you've got Facebook pages. How did you go about organizing the team? So you had the management at Kiri, and you said, right, guys, we're going to create 2 new social enterprises. How did you divide the teams up, and who is leading those teams, and who is doing what within those teams?
Right, good questions. Kiri Travel has 40 staff in Yangon. We have different teams in office like sales, operations, reservations, finance, and customer care. Under each team, 50% of team members have to be under Gume, and another 15% have to be under Honeybee. Team members choose themselves according to their interests. If they interest more to volunteer side or more to souvenir side. Team members from both projects voted for the team leaders. Someone from management team must not be the team leaders because Kiri Travel wanted to give new skills like management skills, leading role to those who are not from management team as well.
Yeah, so it's amazing. So I think, am I right in thinking that you've got the sales team from Kiri doing the operations for Honeybee, and you've got the operations team from Kiri doing the logistics for Kumail? It's amazing, right? You really got a real mix of people doing different things. Yeah,
right.
I love it. And what I think is amazing is that, in this time, often we talk about capacity building and training, and I think the amount of skills that your colleagues would have picked up over the last few months by being on the ground creating new companies is going to be worth 100 hours of training in the classroom. I think it's really great what you guys have done. Yeah. Thanks, Dan. But we're gonna come back to you later. They're really good to enterprises what Kiri Travel has set up. So if you have any questions about those, do please add them to the chat. Right, I'm going to bring in Andrea. Andrea, hi. Andrea has been working on the politics of tourism in Myanmar for quite a long time. She wrote her PhD on the subject, in fact, and she's been working in Yangon since 2012 when she set up the Do's and Don'ts for Tourists in Myanmar project. Since then, she's founded the NGO Tourism Transparency, which supports sustainable tourism development in Myanmar. And she's recently been working in Tanantari with some international NGOs on the development of DMOs in Myanmar. Andrea, you're there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, very well. Thanks for joining us. Andrea, first, there's so much you can talk about, but can we first hear a little bit about the role of DMOs in Myanmar now, and potentially how that role is going to develop as we come out the other side of this crisis?
DMOs, destination management organizations, are currently being recognized as a really useful tool to manage destinations in a more sustainable way. Many INGOs and many stakeholders have been mentioning this to the government for a long time, and it's finally happening. It's very encouraging to see that the government is actually calling for the establishment of DMOs at state, regional level, etc., but also at township level, at district level, and so on. And we've had some very interesting examples in Myanmar already about DMOs. Kalor is, I think, a very good example, We have the Inle Lake DMO, but and what I've been working on in my capacity as advisor for Istituto Oikos. It's an Italian conservation organization that has been working in Lampi Marine National Park in Tanintai for the past 10 years. And what they've done really innovatively, they got funding to set up some sort of DMO, some sort of space where the different stakeholders can get together and where we can actually talk regularly about sustainable tourism development in the very fragile Magui archipelago. So we've been doing this in Koh Tao, which is the gateway to the southern part of the archipelago. We got together government representatives from different ministries, from planning, finance, health, Ministry of Hotels and Tourism, GAD, all sorts of very different actors who've never really spoken before. Then we got some tourism business representatives, hotels, tour operators, boat, sailing, all sorts of businesses, and which is very important, which I hope DMOs will do in the future, we also include civil society groups. Civil society groups that have the best connection with the people on the ground. They can tell us, and we need to start this dialogue, not only government and business, but also civil society groups. So we've had these many meetings. It's been all approved, but what the DMO really means in practice is not quite clear yet. What we've done is we decided with the members, look, there are different types of DMOs out there. What do you think what is most appropriate in the Koh Tao context or in the Magui archipelago? What is feasible? What are the problems? What should we first focus on, et cetera, et cetera. So we set up a draft destination management plan, which is now turning into a recovery plan because we need to revise everything that we had suggested before because things have changed. Of course, we need destination management, but with the coronavirus, many things, priorities are changing. So we hope that the DMO will in some way help in this building resilience and overcoming this massive crisis that we had. So yeah, does that answer your question?
No, it does. And I would tentatively add to that and say I see it having a lot of importance because, as we all know, domestic tourism is probably is going to be the first to recover, right? It's already coming back in Myanmar, and therefore DMOs like Kalor or Dawei or Inle or Tanantari or Koh Tao, they are going to need to really promote themselves to these locals in Yangon or Mandalay to come and say, well, you can't go to Thailand or Bali, come to Kalor, come to Inle. So their role in recovery, that first stage of recovery, is going to be vital, surely.
For sure, I hope so. But I hope it's not going to be only marketing. It's also help in management. But definitely marketing, particularly to the domestic sector, that's the key, and that's still, I think, a little bit weak at the township level, right? So it's interesting. We had very interesting discussions. What type of DMO do we need? What do we need urgently? And it seems a bit that the stakeholders in Koh Tao are really aware of the impacts of the waste, the unsustainability of the Magui archipelago. Actually, we do have a lot of issues already, even though it's been so remote. And they really urge conservation based activities as well as marketing. It's very interesting how it's up to the stakeholders, the local stakeholders, to define what kind of DMO they need for their place.
Yeah, no, and you're right to pick me up on just focusing on the marketing.
Sorry.
No, you're right. I get carried away with my my marketing head on, but your management is if not more important. Thanks to you, Andrea. We'll come back to you in a little bit. I'm going to bring May back in shortly, right away. We've got Ian from Tasmania checking in. Just said hi. Hi, Ian, Chief Poncho at Travel Massive, and Randolph from Germany. Do please let us know where you are, and any questions. One's come from Ian already. May, before we get to that, the way I see it, as we come out of this crisis, Myanmar is going to be one of many countries in the region that's going to be competing to bring international travelers to this country. And that surely must take two channels in terms of we must convince travelers that it is safe to travel in Myanmar, and also that it's attractive and fun to travel here. So can you just tell us a little bit about what the industry is doing in those ways in terms of ensuring the hygiene standards are good enough to attract international travelers again, but also in promoting Myanmar as a destination that can compete with places like Thailand and Vietnam and Cambodia? How are we going about that?
Okay, buddy. You're right. You're right. I think when people are ready to travel, I think it's gonna be a new scenario. I mean, the new scenario of how they choose their destination, how they travel. I mean, basically the travelers' behavior, travelers' expectations. We are like anticipating a completely different scenario, different scenario. So we also have to kind of rethink and reinvent the way we do business. You know, the way we do business. For example, like I'm hotelier by profession. So in hotels, we do have food safety and hygiene protocols and SOPs. So what we used to do before today is becoming like kindergarten. You know. So today, like if we do like excellent food safety, excellent hygiene standards, not good enough anymore. We have to add health and hygiene. Yeah, health and hygiene, and also like a infection control protocols. So not only like food safety and hygiene, we also have to think about extremely how can I say extremely drafted, prepared standards for cleanliness, sanitation, and also disinfection standards and SOPs nowadays. That's the whole industry. The industry consists of like accommodations, airlines, transportations, trains, buses, boats. Think about it like airports, for example. So they are, if we think about the traveler's journey from beginning to his departure, it's a lot of touch points involved. And also to market destination, it's number one. Most important thing is we have to make sure that we have safe travel. We practice safe travel protocols, and this is a safe destination for the travelers to travel. So recently, I think early June, the Ministry of Hotels and Tourism, in cooperation with like Ministry of Health, issued a national tourism guidelines for safety, health and safety. So which is very good. Of course, you know, I think review and then we upgrade along the way. So once we have those safety guidelines, it's very important that all the like businesses and stakeholders, everyone involved in the industry have to practice those safety guidelines. So I think like trainings, awareness, inspections, monitoring, and giving them kind of motivation and credits are coming along the way, which is also part of the like strategic roadmaps that you were mentioning just now. And talk about like competition. I think many destinations will be competing to get the business, of course, to recover. And looking at beyond, I mean, when I'm not going to talk about like post COVID. We're not sure when COVID is going to, be over, right? So when the people travel again, of course, destination will have to compete in the like a smaller market demand, probably smaller size of market. So and I think the important thing that we have to also consider is the travel trends. So the travel trends will be changing, and then people will be like, this is all anticipation from the industry. Like the travelers will be looking for different destinations, different travel products, you know, more sustainable products, and avoiding like very crowded typical destinations. I mean, think about it. We have everything, isn't it? In Myanmar, we have everything. We have beautiful, mountains and lakes and beaches. And Andrea just mentioned about Magui Archipelago. They have beautiful, beautiful, marine life and underwater attractions. So I think it's and also smaller resorts in destinations that has that the travelers can avoid crowd, and also a lot of outdoor activities. So Myanmar also, on the other hand, also we are right now, like we do have like soft trekkings and soft adventures tours, but also at the moment is like adventure tourism in our countries is also, I think it is like an in the pipeline of river rafting. I mean, you know best, these, you are expert also. So I think these products are, I think it's very good for our country. And when we think about like reinventing our products, reinventing how we present, I think all these products, the destinations that we have would be a great advantage for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the river rafting, which I'm glad you did, because I have heard whispers of, rafting in Kachin State and zip lining and bungee jumping. I think it was actually on one of your panels, this was being mentioned as possible product ideas for the future.
Yeah.
Is that just whispers? I mean, do you see those kind of things which haven't been in Myanmar before, which are in other parts of Southeast Asia? Do you see those kind of more adventure tourism products actually being initiated over 12 months?
Right. I can share that right now the SOP for adventure tourism, you need a SOP and you need a guideline for adventure tourism, like safety, basically safety guidelines, and also like operators must follow certain guidelines and regulations. I think these are also in the pipeline to have in place before really like we recovered. So I think the river rafting, even in Shan State, I saw the other day, like some photos that they're in not too far from Pianguluin, not too far from Memyo. They are in the Dotawari River. It's beautiful, beautiful river, beautiful scenery. I mean, you can do those river rafting, and Tanlun River in Pa'an. I think these are beautiful. It's not far, not difficult to go, and very easily accessible destinations. So we just have to, bring all these products and destinations together and bring it to the travelers.
Yeah, I haven't gone rafting yet in Myanmar, but it'll be definitely on my list. If
you should do.
And if it's just in Myanmar, that's very easy to get to. Thank you, May. We'll bring you back in a moment. I'm going to bring in both Mark and Tanda, if I may, because you're both obviously tour operators of a sort. You're both quite well known for creating innovative new products. But I assume right now your first priority has got to be on the hygiene, health and safety standards for your future guests coming in. I'll put it to Mark first. You're dealing with food, so I imagine you're thinking about hygiene anyway quite a lot. But are you having to adapt your tours due to the virus? And how are you going to go about encouraging people to feel confident about getting back on the street and eating on the street? Is that going to be a challenge for you at Sabah?
It could be a challenge, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are still going to want authenticity, and actually they're going to want it more than ever after people are able to travel and they've been sitting at home over these months and looking at pictures of destinations and cookbooks and food online. So I think people are going to still want the authentic, down-to-earth experience that Sabah offers and that we can give them. But then it's just balancing that with rules and regulations domestically that ministries expect of not just food vendors, but restaurants and tour operators. And then also just being aware of the expectations of our customers. So where our customers are coming from, what in their countries are they expecting businesses or restaurants to do? And that might be something to take into consideration. And I think there could be a lot more bespoke tours. So small groups and people wanting to, us to show them in smaller groups.
I went on one of your tours in the evening. It would have been, I suppose, March, just before it got very serious, and your guide was making sure we all had hand sanitizer then. So I've no doubt that you're fully equipped to look after us.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, health and food hygiene and food safety is always been a huge priority to us. That's why people choose to come on our tours rather than just going around the streets and trying to find it for themselves. So that could possibly work in our favor as well, because
that's part of your point, isn't it? It's about sort of giving people the confidence to know where and what to eat, so they can then, after they've been with you and your guide, go off and do it themselves in other parts of the country.
Exactly. So yeah, we're keeping on top of it, and we can give people plenty of tips and things on how they can eat safely. That's normal, and even during COVID times, you got to eat.
And Tanda, I think the Kiwi office is pretty much fully operational again. Have you had to change much in regards to your tours and consider these health and safety regulations that you didn't have to before?
Sorry, I'm not very clear about your questions.
I was just wondering, have you had to change the way you do your tours at Kiri since the pandemic, in terms of health and safety and hygiene standards?
Yes, actually, we have some expatriate clients at the moment, and we have been doing a lot of trainings to the guides through Zoom and through Skype as well. And then in the office, we also give some hygiene training, something like social distancing, wearing face masks or something like this. Yeah, we are on top of it as well.
I'm sure you are. And who is, what happens to Honeybee and Kumal? Who's running the new social enterprises while you're all back at your day jobs?
Yeah, as an example, Kiri Travel has a Kiri Reach non-profit organization as well. Kiri Travel donates like some working days to people who invest and helps Kiri Reach, so that they can use their time at Kiri office doing Kiri Reach things, which is non-profit organization things. So as an example of that Kiri Reach non-profit organization, both projects, Honeybee and Kumel, they will do the same for the social business as well. For a very busy period, projects will hire new staffs or team members. The same team members will take care of the projects as a part-time job using their personal time, like mother having baby, works her profession as well as grow her baby, something like this.
I was on the website of, it was either Honeybee or Kumal, I can't remember which one. And I'm sure I read somewhere that it said that, we hope to go international one day. Is that true, that you want to actually take these things outside of Myanmar?
Right. Because we like to support more to local people. So we need support from other countries as well.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. Great, thank you, Tanda. Okay, we're gonna move on to Andrea. Andrea, I know you're a big advocate of all of us taking the threat posed by climate change more seriously, certainly us in the tourism industry. How do you see our efforts to raise the hygiene standards of the industry due to the pandemic in the wider context of struggling with climate change and not neglecting those challenges as well?
Oh God, big question, buddy. Thank you. It's a difficult. I think perhaps I should start by saying that coronavirus shows us perhaps what a big challenge lies ahead of us in terms of climate change, because the impacts of climate change are going to be so much bigger than what we see right now, if we really think about it. So what I would advocate for is, like, you know, evidence-based policy making, really looking at the science, and I mean the science for both coronavirus, but also climate change. And based on these things, we can make better decisions and develop destinations. We can reduce carbon, but I think we need much more awareness raising on greenhouse gas emissions, on, you know, how each little trip may contribute, how we can compensate. And I'm so glad, may I just add, you have really invited some incredible guests that are so inspiring, and they're really forward-looking. And I think I have really great hope, because, you know, with the little resources that we have here in Myanmar, we are managing quite well. So I'm hopeful, but I also want everyone to be aware of the massive challenge that is ahead of us, and not to forget. And we have to use this crisis wisely. We probably won't get another chance.
Yeah, well, that's... I'm glad you came on to that, because actually I didn't tell you I would do this, but I saw something. Well, I saw something you wrote.
It's okay. Go for it.
I saw something, you wrote this on Facebook actually a while ago, but it was during the pandemic, or during the beginning of the pandemic, and it seems quite a good point to make now at this stage in the session. I'm just going to read it, if I may. It's nothing controversial. You said, responsible tourism in the post-COVID-19 world is all about safety and hygiene, as well as minimizing negative social, economic, and environmental impacts, and generating greater economic benefits for local people and enhancing the well-being of host communities. Every crisis has a silver lining. Embrace the change, which is kind of what you said just now. But I'm going to ask you, do you believe we are embracing the change from what you see?
First of all, well, no. Not yet. A little bit. We have better communication. There are the signs out there. I think we're on the right way. I mean, what MTM are doing, how the government is communicating much better, all of these things. I think there is a general understanding that we really need to work together to make this happen, to have a future. Yeah, in some way I see this, but I also see a performance of safety measures, not really evidence-based. And it's very important that destinations will position themselves and will be known as safe destinations. And it's difficult all over the place. Myanmar is not a unique case, but people are getting tired, you know, all of these things. It's going to be really important to maintain, like Mamon said, like we need to maintain, we need to stay disciplined, all of these things. But we also should really be aware that this is such a great opportunity to make the big changes happen that are required to be able to cope with climate change. So, for example, I work in Tanintari down south. It's incredibly vulnerable, but we rarely talk about the impacts of climate change down south on the islands, on the coastal areas. We have 2,500 kilometers of coast. There are so many things that we need to have more conversations about.
The problem of single-use plastic in Myanmar is quite high, as it is in many other parts of Southeast Asia. Do you think that all the progress we might have made as an industry to reduce our reliance on single-use plastic is now going to go 5 steps backwards, as we're all using gloves and small little hand sanitizers, and you know, we're using single-use plastic because it's single-use and we can throw it away afterwards? Is that a risk?
Oh yeah, definitely. And to find balance between maintaining hygiene but also making it sustainable. But it is possible, I think. And also, you know, again, evidence-based. I know we all think we have a lot of a big plastic problem, and we do, for sure, we do have. But when you look at it proportionally per capita, how much waste is generated in UK or in Germany? It's in, I think, 123 kilos per person per year versus 9 kilos, something like this. You know, it's really quite a big difference. Yeah, so we also have to be a bit careful about saying that it's very urgent. Of course it is urgent, and the reason it's urgent because it's not managed well. It's so visible. The garbage is everywhere. The things are not managed well. It's much better managed in Germany. We don't really talk about this so much because they take it away so well, you know.
Okay. Thank you, Andrea. I'm going to bring everyone in now, and if it doesn't become too much of a rout, we'll have some free-flowing discussion, I hope. Okay. We've got one question from Ian from Travel Massive, which I think is probably best directed to May. He's asking, is there going to be an overall brand strategy for attracting tourists to Myanmar post-crisis? I know you spoke about this a little bit in your second answer, but do you see a strategy being put in place already to attract these international visitors as we come out of this crisis, or is that sort of the next stage on? May, if you can.
Yeah, let me bring back the Myanmar tourism strategic roadmap, which has 3 stages, and this roadmap was drafted since in early April. So the first stage was like survival, of course, which is like a stimulus package, giving soft loans and helping the short term, which is like April until like let's say June. And the second stage was reopening, and reopening was like relaxing the regulations. I'm sure you heard like whether like expats and locals can travel within the country, yes or no. There was an issue just recently, since until like last week, people were not so clear about regulations. So this is in the second stage, and also issuing this SOP of national tourism safety guidelines, and also promoting domestic. I think it's no doubt that domestic would immediately help the tourism supply chain right now in the country for all the destinations. So this is like our short-term remedy, probably until end of the year. So this stage 3 is from June until August. So I would say that we are right now in between of stage 1 and stage 2. Yeah, we are in between of stage 1 and stage 2, between survival and also like beginning of reopening. Because reopening is also again depends on how well we are containing, how we are looking in our safety and health issues. So and again, like Andrea just mentioned, that in terms of like a safe travel, we still have a lot to do. Trust me, we still have a lot to do, especially if we go to ground. For example, like in my work, in my hotel, I have like a 200 something staff, right? I can have really great SOP, but if any of my staff has no idea of what is going on, I will fail, isn't it? Right? So I think that's a long, it's not easy job, because tourism, the stakeholders, and it's a lot of people involved. Like if you drive to, let's say, Pa'an, you have many local restaurants on the way, and we want to make sure that those staff in those restaurants know and they understand and they are aware and they are practicing implementing. So I think this is a long way to go, right? I mean, once we go down to really a ground operation level, it's not that easy. So, but it's ongoing job, and that's we have to do something that we have to do, and domestic travel as well. I would say I think from now on, I mean, it's already began. You can see that like people going to Inle, Shan State, Kalor, Pa'an. I think it's even Mandalay. I think it's picking up, so it could be better only. And like what you asked me about, like how to attract tourists, that's in the third stage of recovery plan. And recovery plan could be as long as 6 months to a year. And in the recovery plan, we have to talk about travel bubbles, or how we are going to open. So which country are we going to open all? I think this is a challenge right now that every countries are facing at the same time. So I think in some countries, we saw the news that they are opening, but actually they're opening for essential travels, for business, and then they are the requirements, so and so requirements, even Cambodia, typical, right? Cambodia. So that would come I am not sure. I cannot say when it is coming. I wish I could say when it is. It is. I mean, coming. So, but right now, what we can do is we can. I think this is a good opportunity. I think Andrea just mentioned that we have to review what we have been doing. And Myanmar tourism long-term vision always is responsible, sustainable. Correct? It's responsibility and sustainability for long term. So right now, I think we have to review our each destinations. I think this is perfect timing. And also, we were talking about DMOs, destination management organizations. DMOs are like pilot projects. They were official DMOs are like I think in they are forming. I think pilot projects are in if I'm not mistaken, in Bagan and Pingulin, I'm not sure. I just saw the news. So I think this is really good that the official DMOs are coming up with their their JD, job description, what they have to do, their scope. And so I hope this really would work for a long term, so I think it's a good opportunity. And also like our tourism product, we have to reinvent, you know, I think we were talking a lot about reinventing. I think this is time that we really have to think about how do we reinvent so that our product will suit the next travelers. We were talking about new normal. So our product would suit with the next the travelers of the new normal era. So I think this is a good timing. So so we during this recovery product, we will have to think of those have to bring up those reinvented products, and also which would be suitable to the customers, the new travelers. Let's say new travelers. So I think that's very important. It's going to be ongoing job. And I think opening travel bubbles are also very important. That this is like a G to G, the government to government have to talk. Like for example, like Myanmar government and Thai government have to talk about like how do they reopen between Thailand and Myanmar, transit included, transit not included, what are the requirements, how do we test? I think these are reality. We can't how can I say ignore. We have to restart anyway. We have to resume our business. But then there are like requirements that we have to face it, and we have to make it like also we have to make it realistic as well. So I think these are a lot of challenging steps ahead. Yeah, for us to recover in the recovery and relaunching stage.
Perfect. Thank you,
But
May.
this is one thing. I was like, when Andrea was talking, I'm really concerned about environmental
Sorry,
issues.
somebody's dogs. Who's that? Is that Andrea?
Yes.
I'm going to
I will mute.
Yeah.
So,
So
May,
I was concerned about environmental issues. Like with this coronavirus, we were like using a lot of one-time use plastics, and we have a lot of trash coming up. And even in the hotel, we are using a lot of plastic. And I'm not comfortable about that. A lot of plastic means we are like, for example, the guest linen. So one linen we pack in one plastic bag, so that we don't have any like a contact of that material with others or staff for the safety. So well, I think at one point we have to start considering for that.
thank you, May. Mark, how I think you've got your plate full now, but when can we go cooking with you in Seaport again?
In Seaport at the moment, I've been advised that trekking's not allowed in the villages there.
Okay.
But in terms of Yangon, cooking lessons up and running again, good rainy day activity, and even our food tours and market tours are back on the go. So yeah, if anyone wants to join, get in touch.
Do you have any fresh products coming on later on this year, or I suppose we don't have any time to think about that right now?
Yeah. At the moment, it's too soon to be developing anything new. So at the moment, I just want to get what we've already got back on track and solid, and and then we'll have some exciting new things happening. Which they're in the tank, but not yet to reveal.
I look forward to hearing about them. Tanda, have you been traveling at all with with Kiri since the country's been opening up? Have you been out on the road on inspection yet?
Not yet, but our general manager, Adrian, he has been traveling through Bagan, Inle, almost the whole country. And yeah, everything is quite open and we don't need any documents right now to travel anywhere.
Fantastic. Andrea, are you back? I'm glad to hear that your dogs are still healthy.
They're great, yes.
You want to speak a little bit about... Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Just to answer your question, I haven't been traveling much yet because it's been unclear what are the guidelines, and I know that it's a mixed bag right now. I think the processes are not in place yet, and this announcement hasn't really filtered down. I think many foreigners, I get lots of expat friends of mine that are here. They're not really sure they want to get out, but what is really the situation? So I think we're still finding out whether it is, for example, a friend was stuck in Bagan, wasn't allowed to board any buses because she's a foreigner. She's a, stories like this. Who knows? There's also lack of information, I think, to the travel companies. Hopefully, this will change soon. So that's why I haven't been out.
Okay. I'm going to put one more call out for more questions from the audience. And while some of those hopefully come through, Andrea, I think you wanted to speak a little bit about sort of health insurance or travel insurance and medical travel. Is that right?
Well, yeah, because so as I'm writing this recovery plan for Tanintari, I realized what is going to be the big issue, and that's the health facilities. Yeah. So if something happens, how can different destinations react, and what are the insurance procedures? Is there medical evacuation possible? All of these things I think we shouldn't forget. Also in Myanmar, so that we can facilitate, that we can make sure that tourists who come here know that if something happens, everything will be taken care of. I think that's it's a little bit, we don't talk about this, I think, enough. It's going to be a bit tricky, but lots of insurance companies are opening up. There's lots of movement. I think medical evacuation is going to happen perhaps with the SOS clinic, etc., etc. So there is a lot of movement in this direction. I just wanted to mention it because I think it's going to be relevant for each country, including Myanmar.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, look, we're coming towards the end of the event. There hasn't been a flood of questions, which I think means you guys have just covered all the bases, which is perfect. But I am going to put it to you. I don't know if I saw this on a webinar recently, and it worked quite well. Do any of the panelists have questions for anyone else on the panel, which they'd like to put to them now, which maybe hasn't already been addressed?
I would like to ask, may I, on all of you, because how can we, we have all these community-based tourism initiatives all over the country. How can what do you think, can we facilitate safe travel to these destinations? How can we make sure that our visits will protect the communities in the future, as well as the tourists? Do you think if we have, the basic things in place, it will be okay, right? But we need these basics in place. What do you think? Because I think it determines, the emerging destinations, CPOR, like where Mark is going, and all Tanintari everywhere. How can we make sure that we keep the communities safe when we visit them?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Tanda, I don't know if you have anything to say on that. I know that Kiri does a lot of interactive, immersive experiences with villages and local people throughout Myanmar. I don't want to put you on the spot too much here, but are you expecting to do the same kind of village tours and homestays as you have done in the past, or are you thinking of not doing that until the situation calms down? Do you have a policy?
Yeah, for the community-based tourism, actually, Kiri Travel, we are not intend to build up this kind of tourism, but we are here to support whoever build up this kind of tourism. Like for the Loanko, we have some community-based tourism as well. In Namcho as well. Namcho is my village, and then in that area, some community-based tourism as well. They are now came in and build it up some tents and everything. So we are catching some information about that, and then we don't have purpose to do this kind of tourism, but we have like purpose for sure to support this kind of tourism, this kind of things, because this is really goes to local people.
Yeah, I think it's a really important question, Andrea, because in Myanmar, the last few years, community-based tourism has been pushed so much, from on high, as you well know. And now we're faced with the problem of both maybe the tourists being nervous about going to a village or staying overnight in a village, but also the community of that village not being confident about having foreigners come into their community and touch things, right? And I think whereas you can, as you would with hotels, you can quite easily explain to the client what the precautions are that are being taken, and they can make their decision from that information. But it's actually making sure that you're also speaking to the community as much. In fact, first conversation should be with the community, right? Whether they even want to start welcoming tourists back. And I think it sounds sort of obvious to say, but it just puts more impetus on the importance of actually having those honest channels of dialogue between, say, tour operator and community. And I think that should be the first step in any as CBT begins again. And also, I think not to assume that they don't want tourists, not to assume they do want tourists. I know that people in the tourism industry in Myanmar have gone to some of these communities and they said, look, they can't wait to get tourists back because they need it, for their income. But that's not going to be the same for all communities. So I think it's vital that those conversations are had from the outset, and once that is clear from both parties, then you start talking to the client of their idea.
Can I add something there, Bertie?
Yes, please, Mark. Yeah.
In the sense that the educating and the marketing of tourists coming into Myanmar, I think that needs to also be communicated to the general public as well, so they understand that there are measures taking place. That if there are tourists coming in, then they've been stamped and they're all clear. So to give these places, to give the destinations a confidence. And yeah, like what you were saying about some people they're happy to see, because obviously we're still doing tours and things now, but they're with expats who have been in Yangon or Myanmar the whole time. And I was a little bit worried at first, how's it going to be going into the markets and the tea shops. But these guys are actually quite happy to see some foreigners coming back now, because it is that resuming some kind of normality. And when they saw me and my team bringing these people here back in January and February, and then for 2 months not seeing us and not having this, some jokes and a bit of banter, to then we're back. And I think that was quite encouraging. But yeah, for definitely some areas, I think the people need to be told, hey, there's going to be foreigners coming, but they're clear. Yeah.
I think for sure, because it does concern me. I listen to, say, the BBC, and they're talking about the people from Cornwall saying we don't want Londoners coming down to the beach because they're all infected or something, And I think, well, if the Cornish are worrying about their own countrymen coming down to the beach, then I don't think what some people in this region think about, a whole lot of Europeans coming back over in a few months' time. We have had one other question in, just about whether a silver lining to this crisis might be that people stay longer in Myanmar. The Myanmar tourism visa is 30 days. I'm always encouraging my clients to try and push it an extra week or an extra few days. 2 weeks isn't enough. Do we think that maybe this could be a silver lining, that we are going to get people coming to Myanmar and then spending maybe 3 weeks here rather than 10 days, and therefore going to destinations such as, I don't know, Chin State or Sagaing, where they might not normally go? I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that, the duration of the stay in the future.
Yeah, sure. I think even we have opportunity, because now in the new normality, like you can work work from anywhere, everywhere. You can work everywhere, you know. So it's not necessary you have to work in your office. You can work anywhere. So in Myanmar, we have very nice destinations, and we can even expect people staying here longer, and at the same time, they can do their work as long as we can provide a good internet access. Why not?
Yeah.
I hope
Nowadays,
so too. Maybe.
yeah.
Sorry, please.
Sorry, Andrea. Please go ahead.
I was just saying, I hope maybe the visa negotiations are also going to be interesting. Maybe we can even have an extension, not only 28 days or 30 days, but maybe even longer. Hopefully that maybe the visa regulations are changing. I think they may also change in Thailand, and there will be longer stays will actually be possible as well.
Yeah. Possible. This is a good opportunity as well, right? Yeah.
Let's use it wisely, this crisis. Let's try. Although, of course, many people, I just want to say one thing. I worry, we stay here, let's use this crisis wisely, let's do the best. But the fact is that a lot of people are actually, really, and we all know, so many people are losing their jobs. It's, we need to acknowledge that as well, that perhaps not everyone can do this, but those that are in a position like you guys, you are so inspiring to many people. I'm not sure if you are aware of this, how inspiring you are to many. I'm in touch with other tour operators, with people that they say it's really good to see people like you out there. Really, really. Please keep on going.
I don't include myself in that. But I have tried to get the four most inspiring people in Myanmar tourism really on, and I think I will see it.
You guys are too.
Okay, enough. Are there any closing remarks? We come to the end now. Are there any final things any of you would like to say before we wrap up about anything we've spoken on today, or something new?
Yeah, who wants to go first?
If not, I will end with just maybe asking quick fire questions. When we can, of course, when it's safe, where will you travel to first in Myanmar, or what thing will you do outside Yangon as it's safe and possible to do? May, where will you go?
Oh my God, that's my question every Thursday. That's my question. Where should I go this weekend? And my list just gets longer and longer. There's so many places that I want to go. For example, like Seaboard. I have never been. Oh, I'm ashamed. I know. Yeah. So I think the whole Myanmar I want to go, because as long as I can get out of my work, or I can get out of my work environment, I will be really, really happy, So I think it's really, I want to go to anywhere. If you ask me, buddy, the whole country we have full of, amazing places, amazing people, and you talk about food or souvenirs, anything. I would like to go from the whole country, from north to south, east, west, any places.
I wouldn't mind going to that waterfall in the picture behind your. Although we're not sure where it is, but who cares?
I can tell you where it is.
Okay. Right, Mark, yourself. Where are you hoping to escape to as soon as it's possible?
Okay, so I just wanted to say something on your previous thing when you said about any kind of like parting.
Sorry,
comments.
yeah, go ahead.
And, that was just there's been some really nice interactions with other agents over the last, like travel agents and tour operators over the last couple of months. And I think, we're all in the same boat. So it's really cool if we can find ways to collaborate and help each other and send bits of business and support each other's ways. So definitely keen to keep on doing that. And if anyone wants to collaborate on something, please do get in touch. And our next places to visit outside of Yangon, Sabah, we've got some tours in Mandalay and Seaport. So I really want to get up there and check those places out again and make sure everything's going okay. And then I want to get to the beach. Any of them, whichever one's open.
Which one?
Is there going to be sunshine? And can you guarantee no rain? wherever that is.
This is Myanmar. Tanda, where are you hoping? Where are you dreaming of traveling to? In Myanmar, of course.
I like adventure things. Actually, the whole country is beautiful, and Myanmar is all about the people. So I like to go. The place I like to go is northern and southern Shan State. There has a road between northern and southern Shan State, crossing Namchu and Yesao, and ending in Pindia. So I like to bike on that road.
Oh, nice.
And meet some people and talk.
Well, if you like adventure tourism, then you'll be pleased to hear about the bungee jumping in Kachin State, hopefully.
This is my dream place as well. When I get time, I will go there for sure.
Andrea, where are you running off to when you can?
I'm dreaming about Putau. I've never been there. But I think let's see. But beach, definitely Gua. It's Gua. I love the place, the Arakan Nature Lodge, but there are many other places as well emerging. But as Mark says, it's raining a lot right now. But the season starts again in September, so it's not that far away. And Mogok. I love Mogok. Mogok is my favorite. If you haven't been in Mogok, then please go there. It's a stunningly beautiful place. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you all so much for coming on the panel. It's been great to have you. I want to echo what both Andrea and May were saying, was that there's some really good things going on in Myanmar tourism, and yes, it is very tricky for a lot of people, but there are opportunities, and I think listening to you all today, people are grabbing them, and will continue doing so, and together we will come out the other side. So thank you very much for speaking and sharing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. For everyone watching, this was recorded, so it's going to be available straight away after this event ends on YouTube, Facebook, and Travel Massive Yangon event page. If you're not yet signed up, then please do. We'll do more of these events in the future, both online and when we can in person. So we hope to see you all then. Thank you very much, and good evening.
Thank you, Bertie.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.